At this 8th, 2021 meeting of the Rolesville Planning Board to order. Welcome, everybody. If you, just advance note, if you are here for interest in the Scarborough property rezoning case, MA 21-03, it has not yet been scheduled for planning board meeting, so keep an eye on the planning department website for the latest and greatest on that front. And there's going to be a slight change to tonight's agenda, moving item number 5, SUP 21-01, down to item number 7 after the joint work session and volunteer appreciation dinner topics. So with that, if everyone would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Mr. Moss, if once again you could give the invocation.
All right. Let us pray. Dear Lord, we'd like to thank you for the opportunity to come and gather here tonight on behalf of the town. We'd like to ask for your blessing over this meeting. We'd also like to ask for your guidance and directions in the decisions we make. For us in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Next up is approval of the January Planning Board minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I just have one correction on those. I think it was under the other business or other topics for the minutes. I think I had mentioned that I had asked about term limits. I think I specifically asked about when we would be sworn in for the new terms, and a discussion transition to term limits a little bit.
Okay. Any other comments or corrections?
Mr. Chairman, hearing no other corrections, I move we approve the minutes with the one noted correction.
We have a motion for approval with one noted correction. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify with an aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? They are approved. Moving on to discussion of the joint work session on March 15th.
Good evening. And first, Mr. Moss, let me apologize for forgetting. So when you were talking about the minutes correction, I remember saying we would do swearing in, and I completely forgot about that, and I apologize.
Not a problem.
Better? Okay, so I need to say that again so everyone can hear the apology. Mr. Moss, I apologize for forgetting about the swearing-in item that we talked about at the last meeting.
Not a problem.
So now we're moving a few things around. So we're going to touch base on the joint work session. So 2 weeks from tomorrow, Tuesday, March 15th, is a joint work session with the Town Board of Commissioners and the Planning Board. The town board is going to start at 6 p.m. and I know 7 p.m. is a better start time for you all. I know they're going to cover a topic or two before you get there. Then you all get to arrive at 7. And we've been working on the agenda for that, and I wanted to share with you some preliminary topics and see if you had any feedback on those. From listening to you all over the last 6-7 months, obviously traffic is a big issue, so that is noted as a topic of interest. Also, as a topic of interest, we have comprehensive plan updates, and that covers a lot of things. That would cover things like housing, townhomes, and also on the topics of interest, I have affordable housing and stormwater. Is there anything, We'll also talk about LDO amendments during a different portion, but is there any other topic of interest that you feel like would be beneficial to discuss with the Town Board of Commissioners, or the Mayor and Town Board of Commissioners?
Anything else?
Okay, I figured traffic would be at the top of the list. Wonderful.
It's not sounding like it right now.
So again, that'll be 2 weeks from tomorrow, and if anyone could let me know if you can't make it, that would be great. Otherwise, we'll look forward to this discussion there.
Where will that be?
It'll be in this room. And we'll have some tables set up, probably here, or we'll bring some chairs up so you all will be able to see each other and participate in the discussion.
Okay.
And
So if
next,
something comes up between now and then, can I just call you to add it to the list?
sure,
do you-
sooner would be, sooner, later, if you have any thoughts, that would be great. I
No,
figured.
I'm saying if they have any.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. If you think of something or you want to ask me anything, please do. The next item I wanted to remind everyone is that on Tuesday, April 26th at 6:30 PM is the Volunteer Appreciation Dinner, and that purpose of that is to appreciate you all, plus the Parks and Rec Advisory Board and the Town Board. And that is the night after our April Planning Board meeting, so that is 2 nights in a row. So let's hope our agenda isn't too wild the Monday night before, so we were feeling good Tuesday night for dinner. So I just wanted to make sure that was on everybody's calendar. Now, was I going to cover Planning Board training needs before the case or after? I wasn't sure when we.
Say that again?
Item 8 on the agenda is Planning Board training needs. we
We
wanna-
can cover that right now.
Okay. I have been told by other planning staff that it's been a tradition for the planning board to have training at the beginning of the year. And I just wanted to hear from you all who have been on the board during the training, what you did, what you liked, if there's anything you're interested in, or if you would like traditional training or something different, and I'll figure it out and make it happen.
Well, I think the last couple of times been town attorney giving us some strongly recommending homework.
We have, I believe we have done a decision-making training piece, but it was as part of a regular meeting. And I think other than that, it has always been as part of the town attorney report, at least since January of 2020. Mr. Moss might have a
That's-
long enough tenure to recall.
That's about
something
what I
more.
remember, just a little brief training, a couple of videos you showed a time or two, and some just updates on different general statute things.
Okay. There certainly are new changes that are coming up that affect considerations that the planning board might have, and it may make sense for the staff to bring everybody up to speed. I know that the town board has asked the same thing. Currently, the General Assembly is thrilled with the concept of tinkering with the relatively recently adopted 160D, as sort of the unintended consequences have started to appear, and so that has become a topic, and so we're going to continue to see those sort of items. I also know that the board has been talking about how should tasks be assigned as among Parks and Rec, Planning Board, and the board itself, and which things could go to you all first, which things should come straight to them. I don't think we have an answer on that. Maybe some of that will come out of the joint session in 2 weeks. And that might guide us in terms of needed training for new duties that are thrust upon you.
Yeah, probably, I imagine a group session would be a good idea.
I think I remember when Thomas was here, they handed out some books one time
Yep.
years ago. and things like that.
And we'll probably need some kind of update after July. Just,
There's also an initiative among the staff with regard to all of our appointed boards to take a look, this has been assigned to the staff, to take a look at your bylaws, rules of procedure. This falls into the term limits idea, those sort of in-house housekeeping items that perhaps have not been formalized for some of the boards, whereas they have for others, and as to why, I think has been lost to history. So there's some of that coming down the pipe too.
And that was a request made by some of you as well, and myself. I think you guys are more important, but I'm just saying. I'm a little biased, I guess. Is this the part where I get kicked out?
Yes.
Okay. All righty then. Everybody play nice. And have a great rest of your evening. I'll see you, but I have to call you tomorrow. I still have some more questions. You already sent the text message out?
Give Commissioner Medley a couple of minutes to. Okay, on to the meat of tonight's meeting. Case SUP 21-01, Waite Avenue, Pulte subdivision, formerly known as Thales Academy. And at this point, in the interest of full disclosure, I do have prior knowledge of this project through the gas station that used to be on part of this property through my employer. So,
Yes. Good evening. Thank you very much. My name is Mike Ellebarger, Senior Planner with the Town's Planning Department. This is Special Use Permit 21-01, currently referred to as Waite Avenue Subdivision. Formerly, this property was under entitlement known generally as Thales Academy site. Now Pulte Home Builders are part of the application, so their name has also been added to it. So we're trying to keep some of the lineage, and I'll hit on some of that very shortly. First, just generally, the property is about 93 acres, located at the southwest corner of NC 98 Waite Avenue and Averett Road. This request is to amend a previous special use permit by the number 18-01, which again, at that point in time was known generally as Thales Academy. And the school is no longer a component of a project here at this property, and hence the property owners and developers are here to make amendments to that former entitlement from almost 4 years ago. There is no longer a school component, as we'll get into. And again, based on the timing of this application and the entitlements that were already achieved for this property, this application is being reviewed under the town's Unified Development Ordinance, or UDO, and not the more recently adopted LDO, Land Development Ordinance. So the current property zoning is the R and PUD zoning district, which is one of those zoning districts that only exist under the Unified Development Ordinance, the UDO. And briefly, the entitlement history is a map amendment. 1802 was approved by the town board June 5th, 2018. A special use permit, 1801, was also approved at that same meeting, and annexation occurred soon after that time in 2018. The original submittal of this was of this current amendment to the previous special use permit was made in December of 2020. So it has been submitted and under review for quite some time. 4 submittals were made through that time, and staff did 4 subsequent reviews. The developer applicant held a neighborhood meeting. It was a little while ago. It was of May of 2021. It was a Zoom online meeting. There were 5 folks in attendance, and minutes are attached to your packet tonight. So the UDO process for special use permits is such. The planning board is to review and make a recommendation on this according to section 6.2.7, lowercase c 7. And then under section 2.1.2, lowercase b, the town board will hold an evidentiary judicial hearing on this request. And at the town board meeting, the applicant will be providing testimony from a panel of experts to address the findings of fact related to the SUP request. To the property, this is the general site layout here. Again, it's at the, I call it the southwest corner, though some of the directional arrows of some of these roadways don't lend themselves to that, but it's NC 98 or Waite Avenue and Averett Road. The future land use map identifies this tract as being appropriate for medium-density residential uses. The Greenway and Multipurpose Trail map does show a community greenway traversing from the south to the north, if you will, through this property. The Community Transportation Plan sees both Waite Avenue and Averett Road as minor arterial sections. They do have slightly different cross-sections, but they are both minor arterial roadways, which is basically median-divided 4-lane facilities. This is the master plan that's being proposed by the developer. This was the 4th version, so some of the changes are bubbled here, and that's why you see those haloed bubbled areas. But this is a general land use master plan for this site. The higher level collector roads are identified, and so you can see how it would interact with neighboring properties and to the main arterial roadways. And in general, the blue areas are future commercial, the yellow areas are for residential development, and there are several natural features, ponds, et cetera, identified in those areas based on drainage. The applicant has come forth with 6 conditions to go along with the special use permit request. I will hit them in highlights here. Number 1 is use restrictions, committing this project to single-family detached townhome type residential and non-residential uses per the areas located on that master plan document. The overall maximum density will be under 4 dwelling units per acre, and the non-residential development would be 200,000 square foot maximum. The residential development is requested to occur before the non-residential, and that is the developer's intent. A traffic impact analysis was performed. It was performed years ago originally, then it was updated in 2021 for this amendment here. And all of the improvements that are outcomes of that study are being committed to be followed by the developer per this condition. And there's a summary report and a full TIA document attached to your packet. 30% open space, which is the UDO minimum for residential areas, will be developed on the property. The applicant is not seeking to go below that threshold. There are a host of residential architectural commitments, which are detailed in the conditions document in your packet. Too many to list right here, but many of those. And then the applicant is requesting 4 deviations from the UDO, which means at the eventual time that these would be these homes or buildings would be developed, they're asking for these conditions to be different from what the UDO. So this would be implemented at the building permitting stage. Generally, single-family homes could have a front setback encroachment of up to 5 foot. Single-family detached front-facing garages could occur throughout the development area, and they would allow 5-foot encroachments into the front setback. The single-family detached required parking could be counted on driveways, which means parking would not need to be in a garage. Some of it or all of it could be counted in driveways. And then the townhome portion, a 20-foot building separation is sought. The UDO standard is a 30-foot separation between buildings, so they're seeking to reduce that. Generally, the staff analysis here is that all the staff comments and issues, et cetera, were worked out through the 4 submittals, and there are no further outstanding issues or comments from the staff. And staff is recommending that the planning board make a similar recommendation to the town board that they hold that quasi-judicial hearing per the UDO for this SUP amendment. The applicants are here, and I think they'd like to make a presentation.
Good evening, Chair Powers and members of the Planning Board. I'm Matthew Carpenter with Parker Poe, 301 Fayetteville Street in Raleigh. Here tonight on behalf of the developer, Pulte Homes. Also with me tonight are Chris Raleigh with Pulte and Riyadh Baroudi with Stewart, our civil engineer on the project. Thanks to Michael for his presentation. As you can see, I'll skip to the next slide. As you can see here, the property is several tax parcels that total about 93 acres along Waite Avenue. And so, to give you, I think it's helpful here to explain some history of this site because there is a lot. In 2018, Thales Academy had the site under contract and planned to build a new school on the property. And then, let's go to the next slide. Thales did obtain rezoning approval through the same process we're going through now, and rezone the property to R and PUD, as you can see in yellow there. And since the rezoning required a master plan and special use permit, the site layout that Thales presented essentially was incorporated as part of the zoning. And so after obtaining the rezoning, Thales decided to relocate the new school across Waite Avenue, actually in that gray area you can see labeled on this slide. And they're actually currently, based on the Town of Wake Forest website, in site plan review for that school right now. And so in 2020, Pulte got the property under contract. And because of the nature of the former Thales rezoning, Pulte needed an amendment to the R and PUD zoning to allow a residential and commercial project that didn't include the school. And so in late 2020, I believe it was December, Pulte filed a special use permit application to amend the master plan and the SUP conditions that were obtained by Thales. And as you all are probably aware, in the summer of 2021, the town adopted a new LDO, which became effective June 1st, 2021. And so since this case was filed over 6 months before the effective date of the new LDO, we've opted to proceed under the old UDO to avoid having to redo our plans and resubmit and start over, basically. And so all that's to say, we're requesting tonight a special use permit to amend the existing R and PUD zoning under the regulations of the old UDO. And so as Mike mentioned, the approval of an SUP requires a quasi-judicial hearing at which we'll present evidence and testimony showing that the project meets the standards outlined for approval of SUPs in UDO section 3.6.2. And so that hearing will be held in April, right now we think, before the Board of Commissioners. And so tonight, instead of conducting the quasi-judicial hearing, I'll provide a general overview of the case and forecast some of the evidence that we'll present at the Board of Commissioners hearing. And then after that, we'll be available for any questions. So this slide represents our master plan that Mike just showed you. We've gone through several iterations of this plan, and we believe we've arrived at something that's well thought out and well designed. And so the master plan envisions 293 residential units and a maximum of 200,000 square feet of future commercial space in the blue area along the corner there. And the residential areas shown in yellow will include a mix of single-family detached and townhomes. And so we really have a good mix of housing types here. And right now we expect, those total units will be made up of 191 townhomes and 102 single-family homes. And so the idea here is that we'll place a mix of housing types in a convenient location to two main roads and directly across the street from the new Thales school that will be going in hopefully over the next couple years. And so this slide shows the future land use map designation, which Michael discussed. I just want to touch on this to say that this project is within the range and the housing types recommended by this designation. So medium density residential recommends a mix of housing types, including townhomes and single-family detached homes at densities between 3 and 5 units an acre. And so what we're proposing is a max of 4 units an acre. So we're right in between that range. And so these are our SUP conditions, kind of abbreviated for the slide. But just to go through these, we'll have a max density of 4 units an acre. And the idea there is to ensure compatibility with the future land use map and with existing neighborhoods within that area to the west and the south. And then as Michael went through, we've committed to several TIA improvements that are outlined in the TIA that's included in your packet. Just a few of those are to construct an eastbound and southbound right turn lane at Waite Avenue and Averett Road, modifications to the traffic signal at that intersection, We'll construct a full movement access point at Carrie Mae Lane, construct an eastbound right turn lane on Wade Avenue, a westbound left turn lane, and a northbound shared through right turn lane. And so, that's not the full list, but you can, if you want to read through those, you can find them in the TIA. And one of the bigger benefits of this project, we think, is the 30% open space commitment. For context, the UDO requires 10% open space for single-family homes and then 15% for townhomes. And so we're really offering a little over double what's required under the code. And so to achieve this, we've developed sort of a compact site layout that really respects the natural features through the site. And so we've tried to stay away from riparian buffers and provide a more unified area of open space. And so we've also committed to several architectural and design commitments, which will ensure the quality of the project. We're committed to building crawl space or stem wall foundations. There are several architectural details that will be on front facades of the homes, a minimum of 3 color families of siding, trim, shutter, and accent colors. And then garage doors will either have windows, decorative elements, or a combination of both. And as Michael mentioned, we are requesting a few deviations from the standards of the UDO, which are allowed in the PUD section, our PUD section. It actually says it, that the purposes of the RPUD can be achieved without mathematical precision to the requirements. And so you're required in the quasi-judicial hearing to show why those deviations are reasonable and should be granted. And so the first one is that front facades, covered porches, and balconies of single-family homes and townhomes may encroach up to 5 feet into the front setback. And the idea here is it's a large site, and we've got a lot of different types of homes in the project. And so there's some areas where the houses are closer to the street, and it's more of a pedestrian feel. And so that will allow the porches to be, set forward a little bit on the site. And then the second one is that front-facing single door garages shall be permitted regardless of lot width. And so there's a requirement in the code that says that if a lot is less than, it's either 50 or 60 feet, then it's required to be alley fed. And we do have some alley fed townhomes in the project, but we also plan to have townhomes with front-facing garages. And the idea there is that there are certain areas that back up to riparian buffers and open space. And if they were all alley fed, then it'd be a lot more impervious and more of an intrusion into those environmentally sensitive areas. And then the third one is that parking shall be permitted in driveways in the front of residences. And that's a similar idea as the last one, that on some of the home types, it's just more efficient to have parking in the front, and it will allow us to decrease the amount of impervious we have to build. And then the last one is townhouses shall have a minimum building separation of 20 feet. And the thinking here is that the requirement is 30 feet. And so if we come down to 20 feet, it still achieves the goals of the separation, but it allows us to preserve the open space in a more unified area. And it will result in less maintenance. So that extra 10 feet of grass or shrubbery between the two houses, won't have to be maintained. So we view that as a plus. And then this slide shows the SUP showings that we'll go through at the quasi-judicial hearing. And so I'll just kind of run through these and outline what our evidence will show. So for the first one, Chris Raleigh with Pulte will provide expert testimony that the project will not materially endanger the public health or safety, but that it will instead add needed housing supply to the town. And then for the second one, a certified appraiser will provide expert testimony that the project will not materially injure the value of adjoining properties, and that the neighborhood will be a high-quality housing product that will fit with the size and scale of neighborhoods, adjacent neighborhoods. So the property values won't be lowered because it's of similar quality and scale. And then for the third one, Riyadh, our civil engineer, will provide expert testimony that the homes will be in harmony with the scale, bulk, coverage, density, and character of the area. and Riyadh also has the fourth one. And so he'll testify that the project is appropriately located with respect to transportation facilities, water and sewer supply, fire, and police protection. And so then for the fifth one, did I get out of order there? So the sixth one, we'll have a traffic engineer testify to that. And he'll testify that the project will not cause undue traffic congestion or create traffic hazard based on the findings of the TIA and the recommended improvements of the TIA. So what the TIA says is that once the project is built and those traffic improvements are completed, that they will mitigate the additional traffic added by the development. And then finally, Riyadh will also provide testimony that the project will meet the applicable requirements of the UDO. And so with that, thank you for your time. The team and I will be available and are happy to answer questions you might have. So, thanks.
Thank you.
So there's no more presentation from staff other than to suggest the board make a recommendation as written in the staff report there, which is basically to recommend that the town board hold that quasi-judicial hearing.
Questions, comments?
I did have a question for, I believe, Michael, it would probably be best for you. When they were asking for the deviation on the front setbacks to the 5 feet, for allowing 5 feet encroachments, what are the current setbacks for that type of zoning district for the front yards?
I'm going to ask the applicant, maybe Riyadh.
Yeah, the front setbacks for townhomes.
If you come on, yeah.
Hi, my name is Riyadh. I'm the civil engineer working on the project for the developer. The setbacks for townhomes was 15 feet, and the front setback for the single-family residential was 20.
So we're asking for a 5
25,
foot.
sorry.
So we're asking to go 5 feet into both of those.
Correct.
Okay. And with that 5 foot encroachment on the garages, will that still leave enough room for parking in the driveways?
Yes, sir.
And that question there, like every plot plan that comes in for each home site will have to demonstrate the depth of that driveway to meet the requirements.
Okay.
So the encroachment may be permitted, but items like minimum parking space depth will still have to be met. So this deviation will not basically create a short driveway. That could create another ripple problem.
What is that minimum parking depth?
A typical parking space is 18-foot length by 9-foot wide.
To the extent it's helpful, I did get a question from a board member who asked as to whether these items constitute a variance, and they do not in the technical sense. There is a provision in the UDO that we no longer have in the LDO, thank goodness, that provided an opportunity for the board to vary the requirements in the RMPUD district, and I'll read to you the requirement for that. The board recognizes, however, that due to the nature of attractive land or the nature of the facilities proposed for installation or other factors, the underlying objectives of this section may be achieved even though the standards are not adhered to with mathematical precision. Therefore, deviations, from these standards may be permitted when it is determined that the underlying standards can be met without strict adherence to them, and because peculiarities in the developer's tract of land or the facilities proposed would make it unreasonable to require strict adherence to those standards. It's not quite a variance. It's within some looser findings that the board would have to make, but it does allow for, if you remember those who were on the board during the UDO years, it allowed for a more flexible or customized to the land sort of master plan.
So I just had a couple of questions, and you have to refresh my recollection, but I think there was one slide that talked about, I think it was a number 4, and it says that it may occur, that residential will be taken care of, shall be taken care of, or may occur before non-residential. How is the determination between shall and may?
The written language in the condition is the word shall. I put in the word may
Okay.
because I felt it was a little more explanatory.
Okay.
Usually, this would be a request, but the applicant is stating that it's a shall.
Okay.
So the effect is the same.
And I just want to make sure I'm clear. So all the residential development that's been outlined on our, on this graph, you're saying all of the land will be taken care of prior to any, because I think somewhere that there's not been any, I guess, commitments made or any contracts made with commercial. I did see there possibly was maybe some square footage made for a grocery store, but nothing has been put in place. But prior to all of that, all residential development will be completed.
That's right. By the condition, the developer would like full and clear permission to build all of the residential before any of the non-residential were to come to fruition.
And stating that, does that mean that the TIA will be then evaluated once the residential portion has been completed prior to putting in place non-residential? Would that be a reevaluation, or will there be, or will that stay? And I'm asking that because we know TIA is going to be different for non-residential versus residential. Does that make sense what I'm asking?
I would ask the applicant to speak. In the summary document for the TIA, there's a table that gives some generalized land uses that were considered. I think that's where you may see the word
Yes,
grocery.
that's-
Right.
yep.
So they did consider a variety of uses, and you could even see the numbers of units that they plugged into the TIA, so to speak, as those future scenarios to generate the outcomes. But I will let
Okay.
The TIA does break down the analysis based on the
Yeah.
residential phase and then the commercial phase. And then the recommended improvements are also broken down that way. So, some of the improvements will be made during the residential phase, and then others will be made during the commercial phase because they're required based on the traffic generated by that commercial. And the idea in the TIA, you'll see some of those uses are odd or don't seem to fit with the project. A lot of times the idea there is to, have more intense uses than you're going to actually build.
Okay.
That way you don't fall short, right? You don't predict less traffic than you actually have.
Of course. And so while you're there, and I asked this question too, because I think even the residents brought up the issue of kind of the speed, and then there's a hill, so that kind of, could bring some obstruction, could, bring some potential. I do believe that the TIS has analyzed it correctly, but I just want to make sure I'm hearing that prior to starting the non-residential phase, there will be a kind of a stopping point and re-evaluating kind of the
Right. So we'd have to come in before we build any commercial with a site plan for that commercial.
Okay.
And so at that point, the town, I believe, will review the traffic impact of that, proposed use. And will probably determine whether the TIA needs to be revisited at that time.
That's my question. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, kind of touching on the commercial side and planning at that point, are any feel for long-term plans for dealing with the portion of the commercial development that's in the watershed?
Oh, yeah, I can answer that. We're aware of the watershed kind of along the frontage there. We don't have long-term plans for it, but we do know it's there. And, we know in the past, similar projects have graded the property so that water drains away from the watershed. And with the road separation there, we think that's an option where, we could grade it so that the water drains away from Averitt Road, and then, it's not considered watershed. But there's obviously a process to go that route, where you have to get the approval of the state, I believe, And so that would be an option, but, it wouldn't happen until we came in with a site plan for that commercial area. So,
I did have a question too about greenery. I do see the, I guess is that the black line that kind of talks about it's like I think this is a greenway trail? Is that what I'm seeing, that black line, that kind of a,
I can read it better on my paper here.
yeah, I have the big, yeah. That greenway trail, is that, I see it's asphalt. Would that have some kind of greenery throughout? I mean, we're talking about trees. What are we talking about in this, when you say greenway? Just so I can kind of understand your greenway trail.
So it's primarily a path, for walking and recreation, but you want to come up, Riyadh? I'm assuming it has landscaping on,
Asphalt
on
greenway
the
is
side.
kind of an oxymoron.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. I was
Main
like-
Street Park.
Yeah.
This is Riyadh again. The Greenway Trail actually runs through the open space, which is going to have greenery around it for the majority of the site. There is areas where it will jog back into some local streets where we've deemed it to be safer and does not conflict with any site elements.
And so, I mean, and only because I can't see kind of your project yet. So are we saying it's people, the back of homes? Or are we saying enough greenery where you won't see back of homes when you're walking on the greenway? If that makes sense what I'm asking?
Yes,
Okay.
perfectly clear. So there, in the northwestern portion of the site, it's actually walking, you'd be walking in between homes.
Okay.
But as you see it cross that, south to north street, it's going to be inside of tree save without the view of homes for the most part. And same for the southern central portion of the site as well.
Is this going through, it looks like 1, 2, maybe 3 neighborhoods it possibly would kind of flow through? Is that what I'm seeing?
Yeah, so there's the Elizabeth Springs
Okay.
subdivision south of our site that'll connect, and then up to the north as well.
Okay. Thank you.
And there is more detail on the preliminary plat, which will be reviewed after the
Yeah.
SUP. Yeah, so.
Perfect. Thank you.
Well, this development, I'm assuming it'll make the connection with the, I think it's the Austin Creek Boulevard, where it connects in. It looks like on the GIS aerials that their road stops about 65 feet short of the property line. Will this developer make that connection at their expense?
Yes, that's the plan.
Okay.
So.
And on the road widening along 98 and Averitt Road, I think Michael mentioned that the transportation plan calls for divided with a median. Will those medians be installed as part of these road widenings?
I don't know the answer to that. Riyadh, you want to come back? I know that's the street type envisioned by the plan, but
Yeah, so you're talking about Waite Avenue, Highway 98 for the transportation plan. It's a 4-lane divided with a median and a side path.
And that'll be constructed as part of this project?
Yes, sir. On
So-
our half of it.
right. So we're required to construct our half of the right-of-way to the town's standard or pay a fee in lieu. And so I think here we construct our side. Where exactly the center of that right-of-way stops, I'm not sure.
Okay, so y'all will generate the right-hand and center, more of a center turn lane, and then when the other side of the road is developed, that's when the median will come in?
All right, so on the north side, whichever developer comes in and upgrades that side, that's when the median will be installed.
So for this one, it'll just be asphalt with more of a center turn lane and a right-hand turn lane into the site?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions, concerns?
I just have one more, I'm sorry. So it did say that the front of the residences, they won't be in front of the 4 lanes, so they're not facing, okay, okay. I just missed it, okay, that was it.
Floor is open for a motion if there are no further questions or discussion.
Chairman, here, no further discussion. I'd like to go ahead and make a motion.
Please do.
His mic's not on, maybe. You'd-
Okay, sorry. There we go. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. I'd like to make a motion in case SUP 21-01, Waite Avenue, Pulte subdivision, formerly known as Staley's Academy. I'd like to make a motion that move to recommend approval of SUP 21-01, Waite Avenue subdivision, AKA Pulte, formerly known as Staley's Academy, to go to the Town Board of Commissioners for review.
We have a motion for recommending approval. Is there a second?
I second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify with an aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Hearing none, oh, you're voting no?
No opposed.
Huh?
No, nobody's
Okay.
opposed.
Just making sure. It is passed.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item up is the monthly planning director's report. Thank you very much.
Good evening again. So the planning department has been getting into a better groove, in my opinion. We're having Mike on board has been fantastic. We're getting closer to being caught up with our development review applications and getting more towards the proactive zone, which I'm very excited about. And I wanted to let you know that on, I believe it's a Wednesday, March 23rd, from 1:30 to 3 p.m., Mike and I are hosting a virtual open house to talk about our new development process. And you can also check that out if you haven't already done so. If you go to the Planning Department webpage, on the left-hand side of the webpage, the very first item, it says 2022 submittal process. You can check that out, and if you read it and let us know if you have comments, that would be great. I want to know if everything makes sense. And if you'd like to join the virtual meeting, you're welcome to. It'll be a pop in, pop out, ask questions, do a brief presentation or an overview. So we're looking forward to that, and it's been great to have some predictability for our development community and our residents, so they know what's going on and when to expect things. And that is all I had, but certainly available for any questions.
Could you repeat that time and date on that meeting again?
Yes, it'll be Wednesday, March 23rd, from 1:30 to 3 p.m. And I know, I believe it went out in the news blast on Friday, but I don't recall if there was a link. I don't know if it, I don't remember that part, but we'll have a link up on the website.
All right.
Anything else for us? Great.
Can I ask for the updated version to maybe be put in a notebook, so like when we're in here and they kind of say deviations from, you know, LDL to UDL, we have a reference point where we can open and say, okay, what are you talking, you know? And it's only because I know there are a lot probably still coming that's gonna have some deviations, and so maybe just one central notebook.
Okay.
That just, the full printout of it.
So when you say full printout, you'd like a copy of like our land development ordinance, and/or maybe you would like key pages from the ordinance to go along with what we were talking about? So maybe if we had the section of the UDO about the RMPUD items, you could have been looking at that when this was going on? I want to make sure I'm understanding correctly.
Well, I just wanted to, I mean, I can easily kind of probably pull through if we know, because we do get the report early, or either just before I can come in, kind of just run through it just right quick from my memory.
Okay.
So I'm just fine with just the full printout, unless others might want it separated out, but
I'd be fine with the
Big book.
PDF.
be just the
Yeah.
book. Yeah.
It's gonna be a big book.
I know.
Yeah.
As I said, I know it's going to probably be a big notebook, but just one, that way I can just flip through
Okay.
it quickly.
So a hard copy that could be available?
Yeah.
Got it.
Thank you.
Certainly.
Moving on to town attorney's report.
No report, Mr. Chairman, but a question. Do the board members have a hard copy of the LDO?
I don't know, hard copy. No.
I've just been going online when I.
Yeah, just go
Reference
online
it.
and kind of tap.
And do you have access to the digital version when you're here?
I do. I just pull it up on my phone.
Okay. Okay. That was my question rather than a report. I'll follow up on that. Any questions for me?
None.
Great.
Thank you. Any other business?
There's no development activity report from,
Yes, in your packet was the 2021 Development Year in Review report that Shelley put together for you. And it has, there are some highlights on the cover I can go over. And it's good reading, it has some great graphics in it. One thing that I thought was really exciting on the second page of the report, with permitting activity, it says the planning department has issued a total of 604 additions, alterations, commercial, demolition, manufactured, new single-family home, townhomes, trade permits, and environmental services, trade permits, and then environmental services issued 108 permits for erosion control in 2021. But it shows Rolesville in comparison to the other municipalities in Wake County. And you can see we're at the top of the list as far as the number of permits that we're issuing. So I thought that was a neat tidbit.
Busy here.
Definitely. Thank you.
Not hearing any other business. Item 12, adjournment, is also on the floor for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we adjourn.
We have a motion for adjournment. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please give me an aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Not hearing any, we are adjourned. Thank you once again, everybody. Till the Ides of March.